Ancient times are very fascinating, especially when it comes to the Greeks. Between the years 800 BC and 146 BC, the Greeks made advances in art, poetry, medicine, and technology. But there was a less glamorous side of Greek life, from using stones to clean themselves to their unconventional birth control methods. These are some of the most crazy things the ancient Greeks did. Real life in ancient Greece was difficult, dirty, and often truly disgusting. Before we move on, we publish new videos every day, so be sure to subscribe for such great content. Number 1. Your doctor would taste your earwax. When you visited a doctor in ancient Greece, you could pretty much count on him reaching into your ear and taking a little nibble of your earwax. That was how your doctor got a diagnosis. He'd taste your bodily fluids. Of course, doctors had more diagnostic tricks than just tasting people's earwax. The doctor would choose the test depending on the symptoms. For example, a doctor might run his fingers through your phlegm or lick your vomit to see how sweet it was. They believed that the body was a collection of fluids, that each bodily fluid had a specific taste. Greek doctors were taught that those bodily fluids should taste like so they could know if anything was wrong. According to Hippocratic medicine, urine was supposed to taste like fig juice, so if you felt a little under the weather, your doctor would take a little sip, and if your urine wasn't tart enough, he knew there was a problem. Number 2. Sneezing is the cure. Modern birth control methods were not in existence during the ancient times, but that doesn't mean the Greeks didn't want to have ways to protect themselves from unwanted pregnancies. Thankfully, they had a man in their corner who had some interesting ways to help them out. His name was Cyrenius of Ephesus, and he was known as the first specialist in gynecology. He also spent a lot of his free time studying various diseases that affected women. He practiced in ancient Rome, and he developed a bunch of different methods that he insisted could prevent women from getting pregnant. One of his craziest methods to prevent pregnancy for women to immediately get up after spending alone time with her partner. She was then instructed to squat down and try to force herself to sneeze. He also instructed women to drink something cold while squatting. Number 3. People wiped themselves with stones. Toilet paper didn't make its way to Europe until the 16th century. Before then, people had to find their own ways to clean up. Like the Romans, the Greeks would sometimes clean themselves with a sponge attached to a stick, but not every Greek was so lucky. More often, the Greeks would clean themselves with stones. They kept a pile of pebbles at their lavatories and grated hard stone against their bodies to clean up. Apparently, they were hard to come by. The Greeks had a saying to encourage a little frugality in the bathroom. 3 stones are enough to wipe. Other times, they take broken shards of ceramic pots and scrape themselves clean with that. Particularly vengeful Greeks might etch their enemies' names onto a piece of pottery, shatter it, and then use it to wipe their own butts. It might not be a coincidence that hemorrhoids were a major problem in ancient Greece. Number 4. Athletes sold their sweat. After working out and working up a sweat, you probably use a towel or a cloth to wipe yourself down, right? And then you probably rush home to jump in the shower to scrub yourself clean. Well, in ancient Greek times, they did things a bit differently. Athletes of the era were admired and worshipped from their hands right down to their sweat trickling off their backs. These athletes were big, strong, and powerful. They would compete to pay homage to Zeus, who trained them to reach their physical peak. Number 5. Slaves had to wear chastity belts. The Greeks didn't want their slaves to waste their time making love under the stars. If you were a slave in ancient Greece, there was a decent chance your owner would make you wear a chastity belt, just to make sure. Greek slaves would often have to endure something called infibulation. That meant that a metal ring would be wrapped around the genitals. It would seal them shut tightly enough that even getting excited would be painful. And it could only be taken off with a key. If your master made you wear a chastity belt, you knew it could have been a lot worse. This was really just an alternative to becoming a eunuch. Number 6. They held phallic parades. Once a year, the roads of Athens would be alive with penises. Men and women would march down the streets, holding gigantic phalli proudly above their heads as a tribute to their god. This was an integral part of a Dionysian celebration, a festival held in honor of the god of wine. Dionysius's followers would get drunk out of their minds and lead a phallic procession to the temple, singing songs about penises and yelling rude jokes at people as they went. According to Aristotle, phallic processions were the birthplace of comedic theatre. He claimed that people adapted the jokes they'd yell during the parade into full stage plays. If Aristotle's right, all comedy began with Greeks carrying gigantic cartoon dicks. So, that's all in the video. Please subscribe and thank you for watching.